If your blood sugar is not going down the way it should, even though you are doing everything your doctor told you, I need you to stay with me for the next few minutes, because what I am about to tell you is the part of this story that most people never hear, and it is exactly the part that changes everything. You have probably been told that the problem is sugar. Cut the bread, avoid the sweets, read the labels, watch the portions, and many people do all of that. They follow every instruction carefully, and still the numbers stay high. Still the doctor looks at the results and says, "We may need to adjust your medication," and you sit there wondering what you are missing. Here is what you are missing. The problem was never only what you eat. The deeper problem is that your body lost the ability to use the insulin it already makes. Your cells stopped responding to it, and until that gets fixed, cutting sugar alone will never be enough. Today I'm going to tell you about 3 spices that act directly on that problem, not on the food you eat, on the way your body handles insulin at the cellular level. And I am going to explain exactly what happens inside your body when you use them, why they work, how much to take, and how to start tomorrow morning. Stay with me because the first one surprises almost everyone, and what it does inside the body has been documented in published medical research for years. When blood sugar stays stubbornly high, despite doing everything right, there are actually 3 separate things failing at the same time. Not 1, 3. And that is the reason so many people follow all the advice and still do not see the improvement they deserve. The first problem is inside the cells themselves. Picture every cell in your body as a small house with a door and a lock. Insulin is the key. When everything works correctly, the key turns the lock, the door opens, sugar enters the cell, and your body converts it into energy. Simple and clean. But when insulin resistance develops, those locks become corroded. The key arrives, it turns, and nothing happens. The sugar stays trapped in the bloodstream because it cannot get into the cells where it belongs. Your pancreas sees the sugar is still high, panics, and starts producing more insulin. Double, sometimes triple. It pushes harder and harder trying to force those locked doors open. And a pancreas that has been overworking for years eventually begins to wear out. That is the direct road to type 2 diabetes. The second problem is chronic inflammation. Deep inside the cells, a slow, silent inflammatory process runs constantly. You cannot feel it. It causes no pain, but it is actively destroying the insulin receptors around the clock, not just preventing them from working properly, breaking them down while everything else continues as normal. The third problem is in the liver. Your liver, especially during the night while you sleep, manufactures glucose entirely on its own, even when you have eaten nothing for hours. Under normal conditions, this is a survival mechanism. But in someone with insulin resistance, that mechanism loses all sense of proportion. The liver floods the bloodstream with excess glucose through the night, and that is why so many people wake up with higher blood sugar than when they went to bed, even after a full night of sleep with no food eaten. 3 separate problems attacking simultaneously. That is why a single medication never fully resolves everything, because nothing addresses all 3 at once. But 3 spices can, and they cost almost nothing. The first spice is Ceylon cinnamon. Before you think you already have this covered, I need you to hear one thing that almost nobody mentions, because this single detail is the difference between genuinely helping your body and quietly damaging your liver without realizing it. There are 2 types of cinnamon. They share the same name. They smell nearly identical. In most stores, they are both sold simply as cinnamon, but inside the body they are completely different. The common type is called cassia cinnamon. It is the cheapest, the most widely available, and almost certainly the one in your kitchen right now. The problem is that cassia contains a compound called coumarin. When you take it daily at the doses I am going to recommend, that coumarin accumulates in the liver and over time causes damage. This is not a rumor. It is documented in medical literature. The second type is Ceylon cinnamon, also called true cinnamon, originally from Sri Lanka. It contains 250 times less coumarin than cassia. You can take it every single day, consistently, with no risk to your liver whatsoever. This is the one with real medicinal properties. When you go to buy it, read the label carefully. It must say Ceylon cinnamon or true cinnamon. If it says only cinnamon, it is almost certainly cassia. It costs a little more. What it does inside your body makes that difference completely worth it. So what does Ceylon cinnamon actually do? It works in 3 ways at once. First, it activates the insulin receptors in your cells. Those corroded locks I described, Ceylon cinnamon contains compounds called type A polyphenols that act like a lubricant for exactly those locks. The cells start opening properly again. On top of that, it activates proteins inside the cells called GLUT4 transporters that move to the cell membrane and begin pulling sugar from the bloodstream directly inside. The door opens better, and there are more carriers bringing sugar in. Second, it slows the rate at which sugar enters the blood after eating. Without that break, sugar spikes sharply after every meal, your body reacts with a surge of insulin, and the whole system gets overwhelmed again. With Ceylon cinnamon, the rise is slower and more controlled. Many people who start using it notice they finish meals without the heavy tiredness they used to feel, without the foggy head, without that strange sensation of still being hungry right after eating. Third, it gives the pancreas genuine rest. When cells respond better, the body needs less insulin to do the same job. That organ that has been pushing at double capacity for years finally gets a chance to recover. A study published in the Journal of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics showed that taking Ceylon cinnamon consistently for 40 days lowered fasting blood sugar by an average of 24 points. 24 points in 40 days, with nothing else changed. The dose is half a teaspoon per day, split into 2 equal portions. A quarter teaspoon in the morning and a quarter teaspoon in the evening, always taken before the meal that contains carbohydrates, not after. If the rice or the bread or the pasta is already eaten, the sugar spike already happened. You need to be ahead of it, not behind it. The second spice is turmeric, but only when combined with black pepper. You have probably seen turmeric before, that deep orange powder in the spice aisle. Maybe someone recommended it to you, or you tried it once and noticed nothing. And if you tried it and noticed nothing, there is a precise reason for that. Turmeric alone does almost nothing useful inside the body. Its active ingredient is called curcumin, and curcumin has one serious problem. The intestine absorbs it extremely poorly. So poorly that if you take an entire tablespoon, your body uses roughly 1% of it. The other 99% passes through without doing a single thing. That is why people try turmeric, see no change, and give up. The problem was never the turmeric. The problem is that nobody explained how to switch it on. And this has been known in traditional Indian medicine for thousands of years. When you combine turmeric with black pepper, the absorption of curcumin multiplies by 2,000%. That is not a typo. 2,000. Black pepper contains a compound called piperine that literally opens the intestinal wall so curcumin can pass through. Without piperine, curcumin stays outside. With piperine, it enters fully. Write this down somewhere, you will see it. Never take turmeric without black pepper. One without the other is wasted effort and wasted money. Now, once curcumin actually gets into your body, the first thing it does is quiet the chronic inflammation that is actively destroying your insulin receptors. When cells are inflamed, they cannot respond to insulin even when there is plenty of it in the bloodstream. The signal arrives but is never received. Curcumin blocks the inflammatory molecules, keeping that state switched on, and neutralizes them. When that inflammation quiets, the receptors can begin to repair rather than continuing to degrade. The second thing it does is protect the pancreatic beta cells responsible for producing insulin. These cells have been under accumulated oxidative stress for years. Curcumin acts as a protective shield against that damage, so those cells can continue functioning rather than burning out. The third thing it does is lower blood sugar directly by helping muscles and the liver absorb more glucose from the bloodstream without waiting for the broader system to correct itself. A clinical study showed that taking turmeric with black pepper for 3 months reduced insulin resistance by 40%. and brought the 90-day blood sugar average from 7.2 down to 6.4. That is the difference between being inside the diabetes range and outside it, in 3 months, without touching medication. The dose is half a teaspoon of turmeric powder plus a generous pinch of black pepper twice a day, always with a meal that contains fat: avocado, egg, olive oil, any healthy fat. The fat is not optional. It is part of the absorption mechanism. Curcumin needs fat and pepper together to enter the system properly. You can mix it into soups, stews, eggs, salad dressing, anything you are already eating. And the most effective single preparation is golden milk taken an hour before bed. 1 cup of warm milk, almond, oat, or regular if you tolerate it well. Half a teaspoon of turmeric, a generous pinch of black pepper, a teaspoon of coconut oil. Warm it, mix it, drink it slowly. Your blood sugar through the night stabilizes, and your sleep quality tends to improve alongside it. The third spice is ginger, and this one does something neither cinnamon nor turmeric can do. Ginger cleans fat from the liver. I know that might sound unrelated to blood sugar, but this is one of the most overlooked mechanisms in the entire conversation about insulin resistance. When the liver accumulates fat, it loses its ability to process glucose correctly. It does not matter how much insulin is circulating. The liver simply stops responding properly. Sugar stays in the blood. The pancreas keeps overworking. The cycle does not stop. Ginger breaks that cycle from the inside in a way the other 2 spices cannot. But that is not all it does. Ginger activates a metabolic pathway called the AMPK pathway. And what this pathway does is something very few foods can accomplish. It allows your muscles to absorb glucose directly from the bloodstream without needing insulin as the intermediary at all. Your muscles have a back door. Ginger holds the key. When that door opens, sugar moves into the muscles, blood levels drop, and the pancreas gets real rest. Not because it is producing more insulin, because the body simply does not need as much of it anymore. And there is a third thing ginger does that I want you to understand clearly, because it answers a question that worries many people deeply. Have you ever checked your blood sugar before bed, seen a reasonable number, slept without eating anything, and woken up to find the number noticeably higher? And you wonder where that sugar came from when you ate nothing all night. The answer is the liver. During sleep, the liver manufactures glucose on its own as a survival mechanism to keep the brain fueled. In a healthy person, that process runs in careful proportion. In someone with insulin resistance, it runs completely out of control, flooding the blood with excess glucose through the night. Ginger sends a clear signal to the liver that there is already enough and to stop. When the liver receives that signal, the overnight overproduction slows. The fasting number that worries you every morning starts to come down. Studies with pre-diabetic patients showed that adding ginger consistently for 12 weeks, with nothing else changed, lowered fasting glucose by an average of 17 points and reduced fasting insulin by 25%. That second number matters enormously because elevated insulin is the sign that something is wrong, often years before blood sugar appears abnormal in routine tests. When insulin comes down, the underlying problem is getting better, not just the surface number. The most effective form is fresh ginger, a piece the size of your thumb, grated and simmered in water for 10 minutes, strained, with half a lemon squeezed in, taken warm on an empty stomach before breakfast. If fresh is not available, half a teaspoon of ginger powder in warm water works equally well. Take it before breakfast or 15 minutes before your main meals, so it is in your system before the sugar begins to rise. Now here is what makes the combination more powerful than any one of them alone. Remember the 3 separate problems failing at the same time? Ceylon cinnamon addresses the first. It lubricates the corroded insulin receptor locks so cells open properly again and sends more glucose transporters to the cell membrane. Turmeric with black pepper addresses the second. Curcumin neutralizes the inflammatory molecules, destroying those same receptors so they can repair rather than continue degrading. Ginger addresses the third. It slows the liver's uncontrolled overnight glucose production and opens the back door in the muscles so they absorb sugar without needing insulin at all. 3 problems, 3 solutions, 1 per spice. And when the 3 work together, the effects build on each other. Cinnamon improves cellular sensitivity, which makes turmeric's work more effective. Turmeric reduces inflammation, which allows the receptors cinnamon is activating to function better and recover faster. Ginger reduces the overnight glucose load, which gives the entire system less to deal with throughout the day. It is a positive cycle. Each one adds to the others. Here is the exact daily schedule so you can begin tomorrow with no uncertainty. First thing in the morning before eating anything, prepare ginger. Fresh piece the size of your thumb, simmered in water for 10 minutes, strained, with half a lemon. Or half a teaspoon of ginger powder in warm water. Drink it warm and wait 15 minutes before breakfast. With breakfast, a 1/4 teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon in your coffee or tea, and a 1/4 teaspoon of turmeric with a generous pinch of black pepper mixed into your food. Make sure breakfast includes something with fat, an egg, a little avocado, olive oil. 15 minutes before lunch, if the meal includes carbohydrates, another 1/4 teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon in water before you sit down. With lunch, the second dose of turmeric and black pepper mixed into the food with fat present. After lunch, walk for 10 minutes. Calm and steady. Movement activates the muscles, and combined with the ginger already in your system, accelerates glucose absorption. The 2 together do more than either alone. 15 minutes before dinner, if dinner includes carbohydrates, Ceylon cinnamon first. What you eat at dinner directly affects your fasting number the next morning. 1 hour before bed, golden milk with all 3 spices together. 1 cup of warm milk, half a teaspoon of turmeric, a 1/4 teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon, a generous pinch of black pepper, a 1/4 teaspoon of ginger powder, a teaspoon of coconut oil. Mix it well, drink it slowly. While you sleep, turmeric reduces cellular inflammation during the body's repair hours. Ginger tells the liver to stop overproducing glucose, and the combination of all 3 improves the quality of the sleep itself. Your morning number starts the next day with a genuine advantage. This protocol is compatible with metformin, with insulin, and with blood pressure medication. The doses are exactly the ones used in published clinical studies. Do not stop any medication on your own. Add these spices alongside what you are already doing, and at your next appointment, bring your test results to your doctor and let the numbers speak. To know if it is working, get a blood test before you start. Write down your fasting glucose and your hemoglobin A1C, and repeat those tests 6 to 8 weeks later. The numbers will tell you everything clearly. This is not a 1-week experiment. It is a habit you can maintain permanently because these are foods, not pharmaceuticals. Insulin resistance built up over years. Reversing it takes time. But every week that passes with this protocol, the system works a little better than it did the week before. If someone you know is struggling with blood sugar that will not come down despite doing everything they were told, share this with them. Sometimes the piece that was always missing is the one that finally changes everything.